Amazing
Oh
villain.
boy! Hello, everybody! Again, we are back after watching that episode.
Wow,
Good
three
evening.
intros in one day.
Yeah, 3 intros in one day. I guess because
That
this
was
is going to be a
great.
standalone recording that I'm going to post afterwards or whatever. But yeah, hope everyone enjoyed that first episode, our pilot episode. I truly tried my best to trim down as much of it as possible as like the first episode. It does run in just under 3 hours, which is like relatively normal for like TTRPG, but like I think the battle does drag a little bit, especially for people who aren't familiar with Lancer. But yeah, hope everyone enjoyed episode 1. That was a lot of fun to watch alongside with you. That was like my fucking 5th time watching that episode. I've edited it. I've had to like send that out as a screener for people for feedback. Like it was I really
Those are
wanted
great effects, though.
the first episode to be good. And I think it really encapsulates the vibe of the show. The next few are much shorter, so don't worry about
Are
that.
they? Are they?
Like yeah, they're running in around 2 hours ish.
Oh wow.
Or
Nice.
less, yeah. Yeah. It's really the combat ones that are heavy on
Yeah.
on length.
We had to go over a lot of
Yeah, but
beam
like
related moments.
Yeah, exactly. But
And
yeah,
we're still learning.
we are still learning. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed the first pilot episode. We had a lot of fun playing it. That was our first foray into the Lancer system. Just wanted to do a little Q&A talkback episode or a little session, post premiere, just to talk about it and get a little behind the scenes inside scoop on it, as well as like your thoughts as viewers. Just a little tidbit to kick things off. There was that moment in the Where the Wild Things bar with Jeep, where he's like talking about like he's looking for some desperados. That little like segment was in there because I said this in the chat, but like the temporary title for this show before we even knew what we wanted to call this whole thing was Deep Space Desperados. I still like that name. It is still a cool name, but like it took us, I think you'll see, like until episode 10 before we actually decided on a name for the campaign, which is kind of ridiculous. But like it's just so hard to find a perfect name, and there were so many like cool alternate options. But Blink Space Blues really stood out as one that was catchy, fit the vibe, had a little Lancer flavor to it because Blink Space is a Lancer thing, kind of like hyperspace, as you kind of saw in the episode. And like the characters kind of travel throughout the galaxy quite a bit throughout the campaign, so I think Blink Space is such a prevalent thing that ended up being the name. That's a little tidbit. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Thanks,
Blink
Holly,
Space
for
Blues.
sticking around.
Oh yeah.
Blink Space Blues.
Blink
Yeah.
Space Blues.
I had a question
What do you guys
for
think?
yeah. I had a question for Amy actually. In terms of just like everyone, we all of us here except Amy, like we're involved in the actual thing, like in the actual episode, and we played it. Amy obviously is going to be a guest later on in the campaign. We just brought her on because we love Amy. But what are your thoughts? Amy is watching the episode for the first time and immersing into this universe. What did you think?
I just like how like world building it is.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that I notice and I enjoy the most is like just where you're going with it and how much more it's gonna just get crazier. The map is amazing. And then I just like all the side characters that Chris voices.
NPCs. Truly,
I
the
love
most fun.
The NPCs are my favorite part. I'm not gonna lie.
As a DM, they're like my favorite part of DMing. Like, obviously, I'm a
Yeah.
storyteller and like I'm a writer and director by day. Like, I do film stuff for those of you who don't know.
But I just like how every NPC has like they're just not. They have personalities. That's what I mean.
Yes,
like, they're not flat.
Yes,
they're
I try
not
to make them
deadpan. So like, they
Yeah.
crack me up every time they show
Yeah.
up or whatever.
Yeah, as much as I love storytelling and writing the story of this or improving it along the way, the NPCs are like the most fun for me because I get to like fuck around with like silly voices and like weird characters, and like sometimes on the spot I try to come up with something, and I'm like, what does this person sound like in my head? And whatever comes out of my mouth at the time, I don't even know what it's gonna sound like, but whatever comes out, I have to commit to it.
Yeah.
There's several characters where I'm like, well, that's what they sound like forever.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
all
the
different, too.
NPCs really do help with the immersion of
Yeah.
the world and everything.
Yeah, it really,
In
really
alternate
colors.
reality, Chris is a voice actor.
Yeah, when I was
Yeah.
fun fact, when I was a kid in elementary school, I always thought like voice acting would be really cool. And I don't know if Mike remembers, but when I was like really young and when Pokemon first came out, I was able to do like all like the voices of them, and then people at recess would be like, "Yo, like Chris, like you gotta do the voice, and so I would do like a lot of the voices, and then that love of that. If you guys know or are familiar with Pink City's Pokemon D&D campaign that we had,
I was gonna say that's what you did in Pokemon D&D.
yeah,
Remember,
that's
it's
that
my
was
favorite
my outlet. For
that was my favorite clip. All the Pokemon sounds you were mimicking were cracking me the fuck up.
Hey, maybe one day I'll voice act in something, but for now I just make silly voices. But yeah, I agree. Like I think world building and building up this world, like kind of we mentioned it earlier in the episode, but we got together one day and just like built out this universe. Obviously taking a bit from season 1 Rainbow Valley of the earlier podcast season, because it's in the same universe but the distant past, and just like coloring out an entire universe and each planet, and like figuring out like what the heck was going with like each planet's unique deal. And then like Sappy obviously came through with like an insane map that we will see more of, and like I'll post it
That was very fun.
this week as just like a hey, welcome to the Shlomo Way Galaxy. But
Yeah,
this is
that was like the funnest thing for me too, is like, you know, when we got to build the worlds and we got to like, you know, we came up with all these different, like each world is like totally unique, and like that's what I'm excited for everybody to see, is like how different, like it's so cool. And then even, you know, whenever I come up with a crazy name, I'll just text Chris like, you know, like we came up with so many NPCs, just me. Yeah, like yesterday I was texting Chris. Like we came up with so many NPCs, just like I come up with a name and I'm like, this is a name here. I don't know.
I get like a lot of, I don't know if like a lot of DMs do this, but like I get a lot of like the world built out via my players too. Like I ask them like for character names or character ideas of just people that exist in the world, or like whether or not they're connected to their character or not. I like doing that because like you guys feel more of an attachment to the world, and Defan just has like great ideas for like names and characters. Like they'll just message me and be like, hey, okay, what about a frog guy named this? And I'm like, okay. And I have a list of just NPC names and what they could possibly be, and then like maybe put them in at some point, and then like if I'm like in a crunch and like put on the spot and like we need to talk to someone, I like reference it really quick and I'm like, it's that guy. So that's so the universe is really cool, and you'll see like with later episodes, from episode to episode, pretty much every episode we hit up like a new world or something, pretty much, or every other. Like we travel the galaxy quite fast.
Yeah, we blink a lot.
You guys blink a lot. Blink Space Blues. And I really am excited for you guys to see more of the universe, because they are all very unique. And even like before each session, when I sit down and I'm like, okay, we've like kind of discussed generally what this world is, like a swamp world filled with frogs, but like what exactly is like in this. And so we've created many worlds, and this universe is very cool. And that's the fun part.
I love this universe. Yeah, well, because it's based in 5e, so it's a lot. If you know D&D 5e, then you know the races and stuff already, and we kind of just like throw them into the planets and then add our own, like how it fits into the stuff that we made.
More world building to come. I mean, this was just an introduction. You guys really just saw a little bit of the Ghost Space Nebula and mitochondria.
Especially, you gotta travel far to come pick up my character.
There's
gonna be a lot of that.
Which we will get to.
A bit of a journey.
That will be a journey and a half.
I was wondering what everyone, and I'm gonna go like one by one. What was your favorite moment in this first episode as like an intro? Like, anyone
Well,
wants to chime in first, if anyone had
me,
to stand
my
out.
favorite moment was, I think, in general, when Bugaki was talking about the beans and just
Yeah.
like just Mikey Starhand's reaction to to
Yeah.
Bugaki eating the beans, and I think in general, Whiskers and Mikey's reaction to Bugaki getting on the
Yeah.
ship was hilarious
Yeah.
because they're like, oh, they're thinking they're gonna get money from this like pod, and then it's like actually it's just another guy who's a complete
A
asshole.
leech.
And they gotta,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's my favorite part too. When we
yeah.
first meet, like,
Yeah,
when all
it's-
three of us come together.
Yeah, I think the story kind of like, or like the show kind of like coasts a bit at the beginning, and like you kind of get a feel for the world. But only when, and I said this in chat, like only when Bugaki enters the scene does the show really start. Like the humor starts to like come out in full force. Kicking it off with a fucking dick joke.
I was gonna say that was my favorite part is probably just his intro when
Yeah.
Bugatti comes in.
Yeah, it really sets the tone a little bit better, and like also developing you guys like the chemistry between you all as just like
Yeah.
this like absolute like dummy coming on board out of nowhere.
Definitely
Just like
cool.
yeah, getting in thrown
I
into the
agree. I
mix.
think it's my favorite too. Just anything for like most of the ship time we get, even throughout the show, I enjoy a lot of the hijinks because it's
yeah, that the
a good
downtime.
part of our RPing.
Mm.
We get done like that, and even just now, like, obviously it's the first episode and we get together, but it's also kind of fun because in the first season we kind of had this rapport filled with different players and a different GM, and now Alex gets to jump into the mix. And I remember I was very excited to kind of fuck around with him
Mhm.
during this part, so I was just thinking of different ways Bugaki and him could kind of like
That's
not butt
right.
heads, but just have moments.
Yeah, there's obviously
it's
that
so
like
much-
tension, right?
It's so much.
Mm.
It's such a relief to be playing a character, and like it's totally different because you're like I'm way more into this character. You know what I mean? Like I'm more.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah.
to develop the character more, and you get to like like I don't know, like you get to different levels of depths of the character.
Yeah.
Where when I was DMing, it was my first time DMing too, so a lot of the stuff I rewatch and I'm like, oh god. But
No,
like
it's good.
like it's
Wow.
still like you don't get to the layers of the character. You know what I mean?
I feel like I
Yeah.
know what you mean. There's probably characters you might even like bring up that you might have a name for, and you might bring up in one episode, but it's like you can't really go into like as
Yeah, you
much
can't-
depth as you want to really explore that idea.
That's something about
Yeah.
DMing, right? It's we can create all these characters to fill out the world, but like when they're not interacting with you guys, they're off screen. So we don't get
Yeah.
to see that
Mm.
development like in real time.
Yeah.
Even if it is a cool like layered character. Which that is just part of DMing and storytelling.
Yeah.
I mean,
the
there's only a
fun thing
couple
about
guys. that's-
DMing is, the fun thing about DMing is like what you said. You get to like, do all these different characters, so
Yeah.
you're not stuck in one thing. So you
Yeah.
can like, be chug nut.
Chug nut Yeah. Hey, sometimes you're pissing in bottles.
Jeep.
Sometimes you're smoking a cigar. It's fun. It's
Wow.
fun. It's truly a joyful experience GMing, especially with you guys as players. It's fun to play with you guys.
We love it.
Yeah,
Some
Yeah.
dudes going on some super journeys.
super journeys.
Yeah.
Mm.
Speaking of characters, I wanted to know for just like a little blurb from each of you, like what for like each of your characters and your mechs, like what was the inspo behind like the character design in terms of like what they look like, and also just like the character concept, like if there was anything that kind of triggered it or like inspired you. Feel free to chime in first if you have an answer.
Beautiful. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess I'll just you go into
Okay.
it, Whiskers. I got something. But I'm actually curious
I
about
think
you.
Mike was probably the first person to create a character.
I was the first
Oh,
person to
really?
create a character because we were talking about this a campaign for like months, like before we had anything, before we had a galaxy, before we had a name, before we had an idea of what we wanted to be. We just knew we wanted to have mechs of some sort.
Yeah, and play Lancer.
And play Lancer. And I wanted to connect this campaign somehow to our season 1, which it happens like like 2,000 years after this, right?
Yeah, just under. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Something like that.
I wanted to connect it in some way. So I thought about creating another familiar character from the same planet as my familiar in season 1. So in season 1, I play a character named Aaron, who's a half elf or elf. He's a half elf, right?
Half elf, yeah.
Is he an elf?
Because you've
Man,
done
I don't
his
even
know. It's
remember.
been
full.
Holy
so
crap!
long.
You have
Yeah.
your
Okay,
full list.
but-
Arc half elf of the Shadow Elf clan.
I'm playing
Sorry,
so
I've
many
got
characters.
that.
yeah, he's from the Shadow Clan. Oh my god, it's been so long. But he has a familiar who is actually an alien who crash lands onto the planet from the planet Zuzu. So I wanted to connect it in some way. So created a familiar character, and there's also a sword. So I knew that this mech needed to have a sword in some way or be able to use swords. And obviously he's small, he's a pet, so I chose a very small, fragile, fast mech. And I want to use a voice mod, so that's also why. That's why this character has a voice mod, and the one that we play in the one shot also has a voice mod.
And voice mods are fun. It also adds more to my NPCs. I could fuck around.
Oh
with some
yeah,
voices.
oh it's so good.
It's very fun. Shout out to voice mod. Sponsor us.
really Definitely. Yeah, I
Sappy,
wouldn't mind hooking myself up. Yeah, Mikey Starhand is a combination of but I wanted to do an Italian character really badly because a part of it is my girlfriend's fully Italian and it kind of annoys her a little bit. But I also have a little bit of fun trying to make it as respectful Italian depiction, like not going too fully into the gabagool.
Yeah,
you know,
too much
like
of a
I'm just trying to
caricature.
because I really want to actually have fun with this kind of stuff and not just get lazy with it. So I think she enjoys it now. She's actually kind of turned a different leaf to it. But Mikey Starhand as a background and everything as a whole, a lot of it's around Code Geass and a lot of my love for those type of mechas and anime stuff. So he's kind of he's a little, perfectionist in a way. Like he does the kind of his head, he has a game plan he's trying to succeed in, behind the scenes type of thing. He thinks he's a chess god type guy. The thing should work out at the end. But he's you'll see things come
Oh
through.
yeah, there's a lot of Mikey in throughout this campaign that we will soon discover. I think if you're really paying attention, you can kind of see little hints of it in the first episode, especially with regards to Condria and his relationship with Condria. But find out more very soon.
And if you haven't seen Code Geass, watch that. It's a great.
I haven't, so I have no point of reference.
LOL, same.
Defran.
Yeah, no, when Sappy's doing the Italian accent, it's really hard for me to not do an Italian accent. Because whenever me and Sappy hang out, we are always doing skits in
Playing
Italian
characters. And,
hey, yo, boy, hey, whoa, what the fuck? I'm walking here.
Half of the NPCs I think in Rainbow Valley are also
they're all
gangsters.
very Eurocentric.
They all got the same. Yeah. I love but my character
great,
Bugaki came from this voice that I it's kind of like a Morty voice basically from but I just kind of came up with I started doing it where it's like a high pitched voice like this, but then you lower it like that, so then it sounds like a guy who's in puberty who just hit puberty. So that was the original concept of the character. Then I was like, all right, what does this guy look like? Like he's got to be a tiny ass green bug, and he's gotta have a Napoleon complex because he's a tiny bug, and he's gotta have a lot of issues, and he's gotta think that he's way more macho than he is, and then that just developed into this 4-armed green bug who thinks that he he's like he is who he is.
There's something to be
Inferiority complex.
Yeah.
There
is something to be said, and I feel like a lot of GMs can relate. When you're players, there's a lot of players out there, and I feel like for the majority, they want to play a cool character and a badass character, or a character that's strong and stuff like that. As a GM, and I think a lot of GMs can relate. It's great when a player is not afraid to play a character that's shamelessly shitty, Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like that has flaws that are very apparent, and I think that's very clear with Bugaki. With,
Those
like,
are
the
my
first
favorite
intro.
to
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I
that's
love
what
it
I
when
was
players can
exactly.
dive
I
into
always
that.
play those type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
great because it's a
I
brave
love
choice
that.
because like
Yeah.
I think they end up being like the coolest characters. Because yeah, I mean, sure,
'Cause-
like powerful, cool characters are cool and all, but like we all love like our damaged people, you know.
Mhm.
That was
Um,
part of the concept. Like,
yeah.
what is the shittiest character that I can come up with? That would just cause the most problems. Like
Yeah.
somebody who is if it was real life, you would not want to hang out with them.
Yeah. Well,
And then,
speaking of like shitty
and then
characters and stuff and like causing problems. And like Amy, we'll get to like your character creation when we meet her eventually down the road and the inspo for her. But yeah, the original idea of this show was like obviously like a neo-noir inspired by Cowboy Bebop, so like had the vibes of like cool like jazzy vibes. And the whole idea was like characters scraping by like in a galaxy, like on a ship doing odd jobs. That was like the original idea I had when I first came up with what we wanted to play. But it was Fran's character. Like once you told me, like, you know, he was like I mean, you know, now you know from the end of the first episode, uh, uh, he's the wanted leader of Bizenta right now. When Defran told me like he wanted to be like the shit disturber that kickstarted essentially what is this upcoming galactic problem, this brewing war. Um, that's when I was like, okay, this is like how we're gonna dramatically kick off the campaign in episode 1. How we're gonna like create a cool backdrop of like building tension of like an incoming war because of these like political things happening in the backdrop of like these guys just trying to get by. But it was Defran's character that really set the stage and like got me thinking of like how to like be like, oh, this is what's happening in the universe during your adventures.
well, yeah, we both also like we were talking for a while and building like the whole history of like, we'll get into it later in the season, but Bugaki's father, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
the thing with, I don't know if you want to talk about any of that,
No,
but
we don't have to
there's
spoil
like,
anything yet, but
but like we created the
see.
whole history of like, this other stuff that happened, and then that really helped me develop the character too, and then we all bounced ideas off each other and created this really cool political tension that was
Yeah.
already
Like
existing in the thing.
one of my first ideas was to have like the new union kind of coming into this galaxy all of a sudden, like randomly, and like kind of like trying to colonize everyone, and like this like anti colonial, anti capitalist like theme was always going to be a part of it. But I think once like Defran was like, yeah, we're gonna fight back against all this shit, was when it really like, and like it's if you're familiar with like Gundam, like a lot of the Gundam shows, especially, are
Everything's
very like
political.
anti-military, like very political. Like I rewatched Gundam Wing like as an adult, and I was like, there's like not that much mech fighting. It's like all about the fucking politics and
All
like the
Gundam Wing is
Yeah.
I'm not Gundam
Yeah,
Wing.
all
All
Gundam.
Gundam anime in general is always,
Yeah.
always political.
Yeah,
It's
so
always
I-
like some government
Most
thing.
mechas
Yeah.
I've seen, like they have flavors. There might be like some
Yeah.
other things with it, but it always has to
Yeah.
do with
It always
government
goes
fucking
down
something up,
to political
and then
Yeah.
stuff.
some
That's
rebel unit
yeah.
having to do something.
Yeah, which
getting
is
their
why
hands on
like
some mechs.
yeah,
That's
which is
what
why
surprises people that try to get into mech, and then they're like, "What?
Yeah, it's
There's
not
like
just
there's the
robots.
fighting.
Yeah.
You have to
Well,
get
next,
the
like
build up."
your liberty.
Yeah.
It's like having
Yeah.
a resource, being able to like
Yeah.
fight back,
Yeah.
having a tool.
And that's kind of how this campaign came together, because I was like, I need like those themes, especially if like Gundam is inspiring a lot of this. So it just all came together with like Bugaki's thing, the new union thing going on in the back, and obviously everyone hates what's going on. That like brooding empire kind of trying to make big moves in the galaxy. And we will see a lot more of what unfolds, now that like this treaty is broken, now that Bugaki is revealed to be alive. Very, very fun stuff. Do you guys have any questions? Any more questions in the chat. Happy to answer them. I don't want this to run too long. I know it's late on a Monday night, but it's been really fun. In that combat, I know like there's a couple of rules that get mixed up, and you'll see like throughout the first bit of the campaign, we are still learning Lancer, and hopefully if like you're new to the system, you're learning along with us. So there are mistakes that we make, but over time we kind of figure it out. Because we are coming.
We address them as we noticed them pretty well too and corrected.
What I will say is, if you watch us play this game, you will learn how to play the game. It's like the nitty gritty stuff that we need to figure out. But like both Alex's here and Amy didn't read the rule book and we're fine. So
I really skimmed. Amy skimmed.
I read in school. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a reference document if you watch our show.
Yeah. So episode 2 coming next Tuesday. Episode 1 coming this week. And stay tuned to our socials because we'll post like clips and art, so you get a closer look at some of the art that was displayed, and the map and stuff as well. So stay tuned to our social if you want to see like that stuff more. But until next Monday and Tuesday, we'll be chilling. I don't know what the sign off is. We got to make a cool sign off, like fucking Adventure 20. It's like see you in the stars. But yeah, over and out, over and out. But we will see you all next week. Thank you guys for tuning in to the first episode. Really appreciate everyone here being here for the premiere. It's a big deal for me in particular. I've been pouring my heart and soul into this campaign over the past couple months and like editing it and everything. So really seeing it all come together has been really nice. This is like my first like fully independent production that I'm super proud of. So thank you all for
that was sick. Honestly, the
round of applause for everyone.
The music and the effects were amazing.
Really,
it really
so
added to
my putting my film degree to good use. I don't know if other Lancer from what I know, like I don't know if other campaigns do that, like combat effects and stuff like that.
I don't think they have stuff where they edit it in, but there are systems where there's effects when you just like do stuff.
Cool. Yeah.
Or you just click on the T.
I just really wanted to have a Lancer production that had just had a lot of production value in it. Because I think it's a very it makes for a very visual story. But yeah, thank you.
It's definitely the foundation for all that. Because I've been having a lot of fun every episode.
I know.
We're like 15 episodes in for recording.
We're recording episode 16 tomorrow.
And it's getting wilder and wilder, that's for sure. Watching this and then comparing it to where we are now, insane.
Watch that because just gonna get us back into character for
I know, right?
That's true too. Yeah, we haven't played really since before the break, for the holidays. But thank you all again. We will see you around. Is anyone to raid?
See you in the blink of an eye.
Whoa!
I'm gonna stream soon.
There you go.
I can't
So
online.
Are we rating? We rating?
Is Lynn online?
I was gonna
Lynn is online.
get on.
Let's raid Lynn.
Oh yeah, raid her instead.
All right.
Never mind. Raid her.
Over and out.
Yeah, raid someone.
That's the one. Over and out.
Yeah, raid Lynn.
No, it should be blink something. Blink. Blink space buys.
Blink space.
See you in blank space.
Blink space buy.
What's the beautiful Joe? Can we beautiful Joe a line out of this? Henshin a go-go? Blinking a go-go, baby?
We'll figure it out. It took us 10 episodes to come up with a title, so I might take 10 of these.
Mikey will get a catchphrase at some point, and then we'll use that.
All right. Over and out for now.